We now press our motions towards adding to this model a key element which has been missing. While we've had an ability to capture rich aspects of heterogeneity, a key component of dynamic modeling has been sorely lacking. And what is that? The agents are bereft of what? Of behavior, of any sort of dynamics. They're unchanging, they're static in a way that flies in the face of many of the goals of dynamic modeling. So our next charge will be to add dynamics to this model so that we can have heterogeneity not only in terms of parameters but in terms of states of agents, and those states can evolve over time. Okay? So that's our goal. Now, before I do that, I did want to get into one aspect of a situation, and specifically, I wanted to touch on a conceptual point of great significance. And this point, ladies and gentlemen, has to do with the modeling process. I'll be returning to some points here, but there's one that is of such direct relevance to what we'll be doing that I felt I had to talk about it. And that has to do with aspect of model conceptualization, thinking about the components of a modeling project, particularly an agent-based or hybrid modeling project. We will often analyze a situation, whether it's problems related to reducing the burden of obesity in a population, or problems associated with the spread of a communicable disease. We'll analyze the situation in terms of actors of relevance, and for each such actor, ask about, okay, what are the properties of that actor? We captured those just now with parameters. What are the actions associated with the actor? What are the aspects of the state of the actor more fundamentally, and then what changes the state? For acronym reasons, I put the S at the end, but it actually deserves to be put second. What are the possible states a person could be at? What possible statuses do they have and that change over time? Going beyond simple characteristics that we might view as more or less fixed, things like ethnicity and sex, what things change over time about them in a way where that change is relevant to our, or possibly of importance to our research questions? And then what things change those states, the actions? What is it? What behaviors does the agent have that change those states? What things can happen to the agent, or can that agent make happen? What rules govern those actions? Under what conditions do these actions occur? And then what are sort of the time horizon associated with this model? What interventions affect the model, and what sort of environment is this model embedded? Spatial environment? Is it a topological environment, a network, or one or more networks? Either of which could be well captured within any logic. And what are the sort of dynamics of that environment? These are questions we'll often use when analyzing an agent-based or hybrid model. And we focused this morning on properties of an agent. Now we're going to be talking about something that covers states, actions, and rules at a single swoop. Before that, I did want to talk just a little bit about time. We're adding, ladies and gentlemen, dynamics to this model. We are adding a representation of behavior, and that behavior occurs over time. And therefore, it behooves us to think, what is the construct of time here? What's the nature of time in the model? The nature of time in any logic models tends to be at variance with the most traditional way of representing time within agent-based models historically. It has good reasons for this departure, but it is different. To wit, within traditional agent-based models, one only has to look at NetLogo or repaths, in older times SDML or Swarm, to recognize that the primary representation of time was what we call ticks. It was discrete steps where the modeling agents would move in lockstep from step to step to step to step. They'd move in discrete quantities. Now, this had a certain conceptual simplicity to it. You define some notion of a tick, and upon handling that tick, all the things that need to be considered from the past year, say, or the past month, or the past week, however what your unit of time was, would need to be done then. They'd all have to be sorted out. How many people died? How many, did this agent die? Did this agent graduate? Did this agent find a job? Did this agent become ill? Those would all have to be sorted out. It's possible that it could be done, but what was discovered early on, that the order in which these things were handled, in which agent went first, could cause a lot of problems. If you weren't consistent, if you didn't think that through very carefully, or even if you changed it in ways that seemed arbitrary, it could change the results of the model. If you handled graduations before deaths, it could change the dynamics of the observed model. And that was disconcerting, because that's not how the world works. The world doesn't go in ticks that define everything. And partly because of this, in many ways because of this, AnyLogic provides another form of representation of time, one that is used by other agent-based packages, most notably common in microsimulation, and that is a continuous notion of time. Time varies continuously. Now that may seem a strange statement, a strange utterance, but suffice it to say that events happen at that natural time. So if someone graduates, that occurs at a specific time, and if someone dies, that same person dies. Well, if they die before they graduate, then they don't graduate. If they graduate before they die, then the record of graduation occurs, and then their mortality occurs. It's very well defined. It brokers automatically which occurs first. So it turns out that this construct of time, this continuous construct of time, by having it, using that continuity, it secures some advantages. It does have a cost in terms of parallelization. There's some technical plumbing that causes people like Dylan and I to have to sweat a little bit more if we want to secure every last ounce of speed out of this model. But it makes a modeler's job much, much simpler, because they're not in this whole game of having to adjudicate which event occurs first over the course of the whole past year. I've just made some utterances that probably will seem confusing to people. I hope you will recognize, however, that the key point, which is that AnyLogic makes use of a continuous element of time. And so when we capture states and their changes over time and the rules under which those changes take place, they might change state at any point during the year. They might become diabetic at any day. They might start smoking at any hour. They might develop emphysema, at any second. These things occur at their own natural rates without having to push them into having to be only considered at points of weeks or day or months or years. Okay, so we're going to be covering now a mechanism called state charts, which both characterizes the states into which an agent can be placed. In this case, we're going to be doing people. The actions that can affect that state and the rules under which those actions apply. Shall we begin? Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, let us open your AnyLogics. Okay? And I would like to start over with a model. I would like to start a new model. And the reason for this is twofold. Firstly, if anyone had trouble following along that previous model, they'll be able to start without the encumbrance of needing to worry about that. Second of all, I would like to practice certain skills that bear strengthening. So I'd like to open a new model, and this is going to be called, it's going to be called Interacting Weight and Diabetes. Okay, maybe I should call it, I was going to say weight and diabetes state chart. Let's call it interaction of weight and diabetes. Okay, that's, if not more mellifluous, at least it's less grammatically off-putting. Interaction of weight and diabetes. Are we okay with that? Okay, let us now say finish. I know some of you did it. That's too late, I misspoke. Okay, let us set the time unit to years. And for those who went forward, who followed my injunction, and now are rudely stranded, don't worry, I'll come and help you. Okay, so we're going to do finish, okay? It happens, it's easier to do at that point, and it is prudent to do at that point, to set the time unit. Okay, now, for those of you stranded with second-based time units, I would like you to go click on the model here. Ladies and gentlemen, if you click on the model and you scroll up, you can actually set the model time units here as well. Okay? So you can rest assured. I heard the sighs. Okay, relief is on its way. Okay, so model time unit, you can set it to be years. And you are not forever bound to seconds, reckoning in seconds. Okay? Okay. Okay? Great. Okay. Are people okay with this? Okay, now is the time that, and as in all nature of things, the student succeeds the master. So I want you to tell me. I know it's a bit early for your graduation. Okay, now I want you to tell me. How do I add an agent class, a person? What do I do? Okay, I hear many students pressing on to become masters. So what do I do? File, new, and then agent type. Good. So we're going to say person. Okay, great. Now, there's nothing privileged about person. We could have named it any number of different things. Could have named it patient. We could have named it a student. We could have named it population member. Indeed, we have models in which many types of agents circulate with some abandon. But right now we're going to keep this at person. Okay, so that's great. Now suppose that we wish to lend this person an appearance. Let's lend them in the interest of variety, and at the cost of showing you some of the costs of variety. I would like to add to person an appearance that's drawn from this palette down here, the pictures palette. Okay? So, where do I go? If I want to lend each person an appearance, where would I go in the model? Would I open the experiment? Would I open main? What would I open? Person. Good. Good. Excellent. Okay. Okay. After lunch, I'm never sure. Okay. So here we have person, and I'm not quite sure which one of these to use. Maybe I'll use this one here. Okay. We'll go drag and we'll put them at the that same origin point. Okay. Within person. Great. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, suppose I want to add a population of such people. Where would I do that? Good, let's go to main. Okay, let's go to main, and then what do I do to add a population? What do I do to add a population? Remember, it was that interesting twist to things. You drag it. You drag what over there? The type of thing whose population you want to create. That the English is imperfect, but I think you got the message. so you drag person in here because you want to create a population of persons. Okay? Now, is that all we have to do to create a population? What else do we have to do? This is like activities of daily living. Okay, but if we drag this in, does that create truly a population? What do we need to do in the properties window? We need to say it's a population of agents, not just one that we want, but a population. And we're going to say right now this is a population of size 100. Okay? 100 people. Now we're going to come back to that because that number, in addition to being arbitrary, is further rigid. And we wish to lend it some pliability. Okay? We wish to make it a flexible quantity that we can change at our will. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, we put that in there, and that's great. What would happen now if we ran this model? Can anyone say? What would happen if we ran this? We've done it before, not 2 hours ago. So if we run the model, is there a population of people? Yeah, they're all there. Where are they? They're all in the same spot. So, ladies and gentlemen, we wish to distribute them so that at least visually we enjoy the pleasure of having them spread out. Where do I go to do that? Does anyone remember? Population? Yeah, population, we do initial location, place in the specified point. And what could we put here to spread them randomly? Uniform between 0 and 500. Okay, good. Good. Okay? Great. Great. Okay. And now if we run it, what should we see? Okay, what did I do? I went to here and I did uniform here. Okay, we're building those muscles. We're building them up. Okay, okay. Okay, and we're going to run, and there we see them laid out. Okay? Okay, sure. Okay, so what I did is to rehearse this whole thing, I added a person. I went to person, I added from the palette, I added this. And then what I did is I went to main, and then I dragged person in here. I went to the population. In the population, what I did is I went and I set it to be a population of agents. And then I went down here to initial location. I set it to be in the specified point, and I set this to be uniform 0 to 500. Can anyone interpret for me what this means? Can anyone interpret what that means? Yeah. Okay, good. Okay, it's actually, this is the minimum, this is the maximum. Yeah. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, uniform distribution. What this means is when each new person is going to be created, each person in turn, it says, okay, what should their X value be? Well, how do I compute that? I'll run this formula. Oh, okay, that says draw a number between 0 and 500 from a continuous uniform distribution. Okay, I got back a number, 123.24. Okay, for their Y, okay, call there, and I get back number 257.3. And that's for their Y location. And for their Z location, I use 0. And that's it. Dylan?
Just to clarify, there is no connection between the two of these models. You don't need to have the other files open.
That's correct. Yeah, we could close those other files. In fact, it may be most prudent to do so. And that will prevent us from opening one main where we meant to open the other. Right? Okay. Okay. So are we ready to go on, or would people like another minute or two? Okay.
Yeah.
So, okay, thank you so much. Can I go teach that to the students? Thank you. Okay, folks, there was a hiccup encountered by one of the students due to no fault of her own. fault, ladies and gentlemen, lies not with our stars, but with any logic. Well, with any logic in this case, in terms of a default setting. So sometimes, mark my words, sometimes this palette menu might omit some of the choices. So, for example, I might say go to Pictures, and you can't find it on yours. If you encounter that adverse circumstance, the key is to do the following. Click on this plus that lies beneath that menu. And by clicking that plus, you can add in particular components that you want to be there. I just removed it, so I'm pretending as if I don't see it here. My palette currently is bereft of that icon. I click here, and I go pick that one, and now it appears here. Is that helpful? Who else fell foul of that problem? Okay. Okay, are we ready to, who would like another minute? Who would like another minute?
I think another minute might be good.
Another minute? Okay. Would you like me to rehearse again what I did?
You've got a map of the USA. Does it come with a map of Australia?
Yes, you can actually get GIS maps of Australia. Where's the map of the USA? Is it in?
USA map, it's top right corner there.
Top right.
Oh, okay. Well, I need to, Jeff, we need to call back to the mothership about this one. Given that neither of our countries are represented here, I think we have a truck to bring up. Okay. So what I will assure you with, and what may lend some measure of solace, is the fact that when we get to the GIS components, you'll be able to, I believe, call up Melbourne environs with the level of accuracy seen in the States. But I think right now we're stuck without a good representation of either Canada or Australia.
You can load anything. You can load any picture in.
Yeah. Yeah, you can load any picture in, so you can do it. It's just this has special representation, and you'll notice that the insult is even felt a bit more keenly in our case, because not only is it not featured, but they cut us off at the border. It's almost like they cut off the nose to spite the face. Okay, so in any case, are we ready to go? Okay, ladies and gentlemen. Let us go back to projects, and if you run this, you should be able to see this displayed. But we've done yet, as of yet, nothing more than what we had previously achieved. Are you ready to go forward? Okay, it's good. You've strengthened your muscles, and now let us engage in a climb. Okay? Okay. So we're warmed up. And now is the time to address these key things: states, actions, and rules. And our primary tool for doing so within this session is a construct called a state chart. And the state chart has associated with it its own palette. You may wish to go to that. I would also note that for convenience, it also lies abutting the agent palette. But for simplicity, sometimes it's nice to go to the state chart. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, I would like you now to call up on the state chart, I would like you to go and drag in an entry point here, okay? What's called a state chart entry point. Now a state chart will depict within it a characterization of state and its changes over time for a certain consideration. So we might have a state chart on the one hand for diabetes and another one for weight. Yet another one might be associated with a person's employment status, and yet another for their marital status. So state charts are specific to delineating one particular characterization of a person into one or more categories. But more than that, in addition to characterizing the possible divisions, we encode the transitions by which they move from category to category and when those transitions take place. So we're dragging in this state chart, and I'd like to call it diabetes state chart. Okay? Great. Great. Diabetes state chart. Are we okay with that? Okay. Now, for diabetes state chart, I would like now to go add in here a state that will be normal. So, what did I just do? Let me be careful about that. Okay, I dragged in a state here, from here, and I dragged it, and notice I placed it next to this entry point so that it turned green. Do you see that turning green as I do that? I'd like you to do that, and I'd like to create the state normoglycemic. Okay? Okay. Next, I would like you to drag in a state, and this one will be called diabetic. Okay? Now, for simplicity, we're not going to create a pre-diabetic state. There'll be enough texture where we're going to satisfy even discriminating palates, I think. Okay? Okay. Okay? Okay. Now, having had these two components, I'd like now to create a transition betwixt them. Okay? And how did I do that? I dragged in transition here, and I connected it, but I only placed them so it could be connected with one, and I moved this handle so it could be connected to the other. Is that okay? Are we okay with that? Okay. Now notice what I've done. What I've added may seem a minor step in terms of the mechanics of this, in terms of the mouse clicks, it was minor. But it was a conceptual gravity. Because now we characterize the states into which a person can be classified, but also the mechanisms of transfer. And we're going to lend this transition a name. And we're going to, in fact, tell it, well, it's highlighted, show name here. And the name is going to be developing diabetes. Developing diabetes, okay? That's going to be its name. And we can actually show this at any number of different places, okay? And for now, we're going to leave these with no change. We're just going to leave it as its default thing, which is rather it's the most simple model, but we're going to come back to this and refine it considerably. Okay, so, yes?
Mine has a blank developing diabetes. The transitions were then properties.
Yes, and so you have to do the show name. So when you have the transition highlighted, you have to say the show name, and then it will show it. Okay? And notice when it's highlighted, you can move it around to lay it out as you see fit. Okay? Okay, great. So, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to now go and run this model. First of all, let's build it and see if it's a happy camper. Dylan, prepare for deployment. Okay, so build this here. Okay, does anyone have issues? Okay, and now I would like you, did I see a hand? Okay. Okay, I'd like you to run the model. I'm sorry?
Do we not
Well, we will. We'll be coming to that. We'll be coming to that. We're leaving it for a didactic purpose of some merit. We're leaving it in its current form, okay? And now I'm going to run it, and we will see. We could have a population here. We'll go down, and each person in the population is in fact currently diabetic. Initially, they start in a non-diabetic state. If we were to scroll down initially, I wasn't quick enough, but you would see that. We'll come to why this is, but first I want to make it more obvious. I want to visually make it obvious. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to now set it so their color will change when they become diabetic. Their color will change from one to the other. So, Dylan's services will be in high demand subsequently. Okay, so I would like to, ladies and gentlemen, go through a two-phase procedure. And this will demand a certain measure of attention. So the first thing is, in person, I would like to go over to Palette. I would like to get an agent, and I would like to add in something that is new to us, a variable. Variable, in contrast to a parameter, a variable will store changing information about the situation. And we are going to call this variable color with a properly Queen's English spelling. Okay? Okay? Are people okay with that? Okay, sure. I went over to Palette, and I went to this agent component, and I dragged a variable up here, and I called it color. Is that okay? Yes. Sure. A parameter encodes an assumption that's typically fixed. It's typically static. In other words, you make the assumption once, and that's it. Like you assign my sex, you assign my ethnicity, or you assign my initial age. My initial age never changes. So it communicates a fixed assumption. Encodes that assumption and it communicates it from the point of creation to the agent. So the population tells the person you will be their sex, and that person is that sex. Okay, and that's a fixed thing. Parameters typically encoding a fixed value. There are occasional exceptions, but by and large, it's going to be fixed. That's how it should be best used. A variable, by contrast, holds a quantity that will be changing over time. And in fact, we will change this even in this very 5-minute session. You will be changing this variable. Okay? We will not typically, I'm not sure in the entire course of the boot camp, we'll change a parameter. Okay? Any question? Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, we are going to do color, but we have not yet fully bent it to our will. Okay, so in color, I would like to go to type. For the color variable, make sure it's selected. Notice it's indicated over here in properties, and I would like to set its type to be other. Okay. 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 And where it says for other, I would like to put in. So let me ask this, ladies and gentlemen. We've previously used these types for different things. We've set things to be double precision numbers. Sometimes we'll want an int. That will be coming up, an integer. But for this, the type will be, now watch this, color with a capital C and a spelling that, just as that USA map, is indicative of the American Imperium. Okay, so C-O-L-O-R. Okay? They cut us out of the map, and they've cut us out of the spelling decision. Okay, so it's C-O-L-O-R. Now, mark my words, this is an important, extremely important distinction. When we set Remember, we had each person had a sex, lowercase sex. And what was the type of that? Does anyone remember what the type of that was? It was of type. Sorry? It was an option list. Yeah, it was a capital SEX that we had created. Remember that? Yeah. That described all the possible values of sex, right? This person had a particular value, but that was this type is describing what are the sort of the set of possible values from which this particular one can be drawn. This particular color will hold a particular value from the set of all possibilities as delineated by this class, color, capital C, OLR. Is that okay? Okay. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, we need that thing to be color, and we will set an initial value here, which will be black. Okay? Black. Jeff, does Conrad Black circulate in the Australian continent at all?
Yes.
He does. I'm sorry to hear it. He was imprisoned in the United States, and he was denied a visa to. In fact, he was deprived, I think, of his. There was some issue where he was appointed to the House of Lords as Lord Beaverbrook, but he was then denied the claim, and he appealed it. He was jailed in the U.S., and the way he put it in his letter is he had been a guest of the U.S. government for several years and was seeking to return to Canada, meaning he was in jail. In any case, this is black, okay? Okay, great. So we've just indicated this is black. Now we should go to this construct here, which is the person. This is the color, but right now it's disconnected from color. We need to act on it to be the color, okay? We need to make this thing have that as its color. So ladies and gentlemen, with this case, it's a little bit confusing. This image here is actually composed of pieces, and it's somewhat hard to select it. I've just done it here, but that's largely by accident. You can try futzing with it, and you're welcome to do so. But if you zoom in here, and I'll actually show you what it's doing, it's actually going and selecting pieces of it that delineate sort of the shape here. And you could zoom in and try to select that if you wish to do so. And that double clicking on it will do so. But the easier way to do it is to go over here in person, go to presentation, expand person, and go to shape body. Okay? Either way will get you to this. Double clicking on this guy I think should do it, but the easier, more straightforward way is to do that. Now we want to set fill color here. We want to set this to be determined by the variable color. How do you think we'll do that? What do I need to do here? You folks have done it before. In fact, one of you have even pointed it out. What do I need to do to make this dynamic, to have it change? Can anyone tell me? Yeah, you need to change this to that. And then you need to put in the variable name, color, like that. Okay? Sure. So I went over here, person, I expanded presentation, expanded person, and went to shape body. Alternatively, I could double click on this guy if I'm close enough. Is that okay? Yeah, there you go. There you go. And then you'll want to do appearance here. Yeah, there you go. And then you can do that. Yeah, and you'll put it in color. Okay, who else needs help with this? Who else needs help? Okay. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. So now we're setting it so their appearance is given by color. And ladies and gentlemen, I would like you, if you zoomed in on this, you can now zoom out. And I would like you in normal glycemic state to set color to be equal to green. Okay, now I'm doing something that may distress some of you, and if so, I apologize. But I'm going to try to explain what I'm doing here. So I've gone back to the state chart, and I've gone to the states. And when you look at a state allows you to have things to specify what should happen when you enter the state or leave the state. And you'll notice here, if we click on this state, there's actually a thing called entry action. And I'm actually saying, if you enter the state, do something. Do something. In order to say that, I said color equals green. Notice I didn't say equals equals. Equals equals, we said, is color green? Instead, I'm saying make color be green. This single equals mean make it, like assign it to the color. And then I put a semicolon after it. A semicolon is basically saying this is a command. It's what's called a statement. It's saying do this thing. Not just give me a value back. It's not just like call a uniform, get a value back. It's actually saying do this action, make this happen. And that's what this is. This is an action. It's not asking for a value. For a value, all we need is a formula. This is not a formula. This is a command. It's saying, it's an imperative. Do this thing. Set the color to be green. And so we need a semicolon there. It's part of an action. In general, you don't need semicolon. And you don't need semicolons if you're just giving a formula which calculates a value, a so-called expression. Something that just calculates a value. This is not just calculating value. This is doing something. It's taking some action. It's making something happen. And hence it needs to be followed by the semicolon. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the rule of semicolons. And unfortunately, any logic suffers from cancer of the semicolon. Okay. Okay, are we comfortable with that? Okay. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, having done that, I would like to go to diabetic, and we will set this to be color equals red. Okay? Color equals red. And for good measure, let's set the fill color. The fill color here is actually irrelevant. I won't distract you with that for now, but we'll come back to that in a moment. Okay, having done that, I would like you to use the build button. And Dylan is prepared for deployment. Okay, so, oh gosh. Okay, can you press build? Does it work? Okay, who needs Dylanian help? Nolian help. Nolian help is needed in Sector 1 and Sector 4. Okay. Oh, okay, yeah, because this needs to be capital C or R. Yeah. And in fact, Dylan has articulated the reasons. There you go. And now you should have this be happening. Okay? Okay, ladies and gentlemen. If anyone's encountering a thing about color cannot be resolved, make sure this is a capital C color. In general, and Dylan has tried to put up some rules there. I can't read it, but the basic deal is that if it's naming a general class of things, what we call a class, it has to have a capital. So color here is the capital C here. This is depicting a set of all colors. Person, capital P, is depicting the set of all people, or the personhood. This is denoting colorness or colorhood. The set of all associated with a set of all possible colors. By contrast, this color here is with a lowercase because it's a particular color this person will have. At any one time, they will have one and only one color. It may change over time, but at one time they have one color. Hence, it's given this name small color. That is a distinction if it's a group of things, if it's a so-called class, it denotes colorhood or dearhood or dearness, personness. Then we give it a capital, otherwise we give it a lowercase. Okay. Yeah.
In the morning, we set the color in capital letter. Does it make a difference?
We set which...
We set sets equal female if it's red. And question mark red.
Oh, we use a capital for red.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a very good point. You could use either capitals or lowercase. So this is the one instance, literally, that I know of in the entire span of Java where they define both capital and lowercase. They define both of them, so you could use either one. It's the only case I know about in the entire time, and it's because they define both. And so good call, but yeah, you could use either one, and I should probably be consistent. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, let's run this thing. What do you see happening when you run it? What happens? Okay, and this gets to the question that was asked earlier. Don't we need a rate? I mean, after all, let's go see. We have specified here, let's go back to our SART, our parties. We have specified the states, normal, glycemic, and diabetic, with respect to diabetes state chart. We're going to be adding more state charts. So there'll be other characterization of states, but this defines the states for this division. In terms of diabetes, there's 2 states they could be in. It defines the actions, the things that change the state, this transition. These are transitions which change the state. It defines the rules under which those transitions take place. And can anyone decode for me? Can anyone puzzle out the rule that underlies this? Under what condition will they transition from here to here? 1 year, a single year. And hence they transition all together in lockstep. As exactly 1 year after the model starts, en masse, they enter the diabetic state. Right? Now that is not what we seek. Right? So I would like to now change that. Okay? I would like to change it, and we are going to change this to be a rate instead. Not a timeout, but a rate. Okay? Now, for simplicity, for didactic purposes, I'm going to set this rate to be 1 divided by 50.0. Now, I have to tell you something that makes me uncomfortable. And I apologize, but I tell you to warn you. Note that this is 1 over 50.0. That's very important. Even experienced modelers can make this mistake occasionally. In fact, Dylan, when AnyLogic imports Vensa models and it has 1 over 50 in the Vensa model, it will import as 1 over 50. Turn it to 0. So if I did 1 over 50, it would interpret that as what's called an integer division. I'll ask, how many times does 50 go into 1? 0 times. So it would turn it into 0. It would try to divide it at integer level, 50 into 1, and say, it doesn't go any time. 0. That's it. End of story. What we want is 1 over 50.0. It's actually telling it, make it a floating point computation. Make it a computation in terms of real numbers. And it will actually compute it. So make it 1 over 50.0, and you'll stay on the prudent side of the law. Okay, having done that, I would like you to run this model. What do you see happening now?
So you put 150, that you assume that is a rate. That's your assumption.
1 divided by 50.0. Now this, and I'll come to this, what the meaning of that is. It's a continuous hazard rate. It's a hazard. It's a probability per unit time. It's not a probability. It's a probability per unit time. It's a probability density. I don't know if people here are familiar with the notion of a hazard rate. It's it's associated with continuous time processes. For example, in survival analysis or competing risks analysis, you'll see this. And that's what that is used to encode it. So what that means is that the average time before getting diabetes is, in this case, 50 years. 1 over 50 rate corresponds, it's exponentially distributed residence time in the non-diabetic state with an alpha of 1 over 50.0, which means that your average time in that state is 50 years. Okay? And some people leave there earlier, some people leave there later. And we'll see as we run this model, different people becoming diabetic at different times. Do you see that? And if we go down now to a particular individual, you will see, oh, this individual here, their time is counting down. They have a long time left to go, actually, before they become diabetic. This one will become diabetic in just over 20 years. 19 years remain. Watch this. See this here? Do you see how it's counting down? Okay, 12 years remain. 11, 10, 9, 8. This is a particular person in the population. Okay, 5 years remain. Okay, here we go. Watch this. There they become diabetic. Do you see that? And if we had looked at their little icon in the upper left, we would see that at that point, this little thing here changes. Watch this. Boom. It changed to red. You see that? Okay, ladies and gentlemen. So, I don't mean to overplay this, but we've just characterized dynamics at an individual level associated with this state chart. We've characterized some states. We've characterized actions moving between these states, actions which change their state, and we have characterized the rules by which these actions took place. Mark my words. We had it as a timeout. That was one sort of rule governing this action. The action was becoming diabetic, right? There was a rule governing that action that used to be, after exactly 1 year, make that action happen. Now the rule is, with a certain hazard rate, make that action happen. And we will soon see how to, in fact, have those hazard rates change over time. Okay? So those hazard rates are adjusting as a person ages, or as adjusting as other comorbidities evolve. Okay? Okay, yes, question?
Are there any implications for making that 0.2 as a rate as opposed to 1 over 20?
Great question, Joanne. Thank you very much. So Joanne asked, why make this 1 over 50.0? Why not just make it 0.02? Okay, there is a reason, and I profess this reason standing before you not only as a modeler, but as a software engineer. A characteristic that is also shared by our TA. There's a reason for showing this as this. There are times where I might use 0.02, but there's a difference semantically. There's no difference mathematically between these two, but there's extra meaning packed into this. If my primary point of reference was a data point about the mean time that they spend in the state being 50 years, this actually makes this retains that information. It sort of highlights the data point that I know. And I might in the description here say, mean time, per McDonald 2013, the mean time in a normoglycemic state is 50 years. And that kind of keeps that visually apparent, that we have this 50. If I unpacked it to 0.02, it might not be as obvious where that assumption came from, whereas keeping it manifest, keeping it kind of more evident by retaining the original datum in the number can be useful for sort of as a type of metadata to document where that came from. It just makes it a little bit more clear. There are times where you have to sacrifice something, but this also, I will say, Joanne, that with rates, as a general point, and I tried to emphasize this before, but let me reiterate it. The value of the rate is 1 over the mean time. And people tend to think about these rates in two different ways. One is to think about them in terms of the mean time and just to derive the rate from that, which is what this is doing. and other people tend to think about them as at the level of a hazard rate. You have, a 2%, a 0.02 chance per year of transitioning, and that's the way they kind of think about it, in which case you would write 0.02. And you can think about it either way, in terms of the hazard rate being the basic thing, basic point of reference, or the mean time. And this provides a way of sort of retaining whichever way you prefer. Is that helpful? Notice that you can also specify the time unit here. So if you wish to specify the hazard rate in different terms, you can do so. But ladies and gentlemen, this is nothing more or less than a standard classic hazard with exponentially distributed random time associated with a memoryless process. Each successive year, you have the same chance of becoming diabetic, conditional on remaining in that state as you did in previous years. Your hazard of leaving, your chance of leaving the next year is independent of how long you've been in that normal glycemic state. This is like standard biostats and stochastic processes material. And this is nothing more than formalizing it for this particular modeling project. But notice that there are several types of transitions. We use timeout first. That can be very useful. We had this timeout occurring with a fixed thing, but we could always specify here a draw from a distribution. We could have drawn here. Instead of just having a fixed value 1 year, we could have drawn it from a distribution, say a log normal distribution. We could have drawn it with a log mean of 1 and a log standard deviation of 2, and use that for the timeout. What that would mean is that, for different people, essentially they'd have draw from this probability distribution as to when they become diabetic. In this case, what we're actually doing is we're actually using a rate, which is another very common way. We could also have them transition based on a condition, and we're soon going to see a message in arrival, where they arrive at some destination or where they enjoy some contact with another agent. But for now, we'll make use of a rate. Is that helpful? Okay, any other questions about this? State charts are worth emphasizing because state charts are a primary building block for these models, and because they give us, all in one package no less, states, actions, and rules. They package them up. We can secure elements of each of those using separate constructs. So with a variable, it can encode the state. But then we have to specify the actions and rules separately from them. An event can specify an action and a rule, but not directly the state. With a state chart, you get 3 in 1. Just as is the case with stocks and flows, as we'll see. Okay. Any other questions about this state chart? Having done that, we are now going to do something a little bit different. We're going to take a little bit of a divergence, and then we're going to come back to this, and we're going to add a second state chart. And we will use that to build up an edifice that will speak to health economic concerns. Okay? Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I promised you before lunch something on which I've yet to deliver, and it troubles me. So I'd like to go back to Maine, and I would like to put in place now statistics. Are you ready for this? Okay? Okay. So we'll return to state charts and enrich them. But first, let's go to Maine, and let us click on population. And one of the things you will find within population, one of the many virtues that it is by which it is recommended, is this ability to define statistics. Okay? So if you go to Maine and you click on the population, you scroll down, there's the statistics here. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to add to this population a statistic. In fact, we're going to add several statistics. The first one, ladies and gentlemen, will be one that's just based on that state chart. Okay? We're going to add in a characteristic here that will be called count diabetic. This is going to be a prevalent case count of the number of people who are diabetic. How many people within that population are diabetic? It's a count. Okay? Okay. Now, the condition for this count will be given by the following. To understand this, you will have to recognize that what it is doing here is it's running through each person in the population in turn, and it's calling that person by a certain name. It's going to say, you, first person, are you diabetic? No, ma'am. It's going to go to the second one. Hey, you, are you diabetic? No, ma'am. Third person, are you diabetic? Yes, ma'am. Fourth person, I know, Jeff, that's one of the favorite parts of the boot camp for Jeff. So, we're going to take advantage of that. The name that it's asking each person, saying you, that name is going to seem funny to you. The name is a simple word denoted by this little icon here, item. Okay? Item. So what we need to do is, it's asking, give me a condition. This condition is count, what this means is count the number that match this condition, that match this criteria, to match this specification. Okay? The criteria is going to be item. That's going to be referring to a particular person. You. Okay? And we're going to ask, are you in this certain state? Oh boy. Okay. And what state is it? Okay, word only so. Because we're actually asking, that's actually a fine idea. You could actually do that. Man, that's actually a very good idea. But it's actually person.diabetic. Are they diabetic? Okay. I'm just verifying for future boot camps this won't work. Yeah, that exactly as I thought. You have to have person.diabetic. It's diabetes for a person. Okay. Mumble. Okay. So we're asking, hey, is this person in a certain state of being diabetes for a person? Oh, I wish it weren't so, but that's the grim truth of it. Are we ready for that? Are we okay with that? I'm sorry to say it. You have to say person dot. It's diabetic with respect to a person. After all, we could have, and don't laugh, I work a lot with vets. You could have in the same model, you could have, a horse and a dog, and there could be diabetes with respect to the dog and diabetes with respect to the horse. I do know vets who study diabetes in dogs, and so any logic to prevent that clash. Oh, there's diabetes over here. You can't have diabetes in horses because you have it in dogs. It sort of has you specify, okay, diabetes with respect to what? This thing. This is the name of the state, and it forces you to have the name of the class that it's in. Okay? Are we ready for that? Okay, who needs help? Dylan is deployed and would be glad to help out. Anyone? Are we ready to run? Okay, let's run it. Let's let it rip. Okay? Okay. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like you to click on this population. You'll notice what's going on here. What's going on there? You see that? It's counting up the number that are diabetic. Okay? Do you see that? Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, so now it's counting up the number in that population that are diabetic. Okay? So, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like you to further press these advantages. Okay? So, I would like you to go up to Palette. Okay? And I'd like you to scroll up to this area above this space in main. Okay, good. So I'm sorry, it should be consistent. So first go to main and then scroll up to here. And then once you are afforded that space, go to palette and then go down to the analysis area of the palette. Okay. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I would like you now to drag over into this area. I would like to drag over a time plot. Okay. Are we feeling okay about that? We dragged in a time plot? Okay, now, this next little bit will require attention to 3 components. Okay? So I'd like you to watch my actions. The first thing is in this time plot, I would like you to select it so it's in the properties window. And the most critical thing here, first of all, we'll give it a name. Give it a name. So this will be plot diabetes count. Yeah, or count plot count diabetes count. Believe me, I take naming very. I don't. Okay, fine. I'll do that. I take naming very seriously, and Dylan does as well, I think.
When it comes to graphs, I've just about given up trying to give them sensible names. I mean, the data set sensible names, but when it comes to the graph, I'll just write a description of what I'm trying to have in the graph there.
I'm
like 97% on board with you that it has to be perfect everywhere except for graphs.
okay, I give up at text labels.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah, okay. So plot diabetes count. That's pretty good, pretty good. Okay, okay, so in the data area, I'd like you to press a plus. And we're going to plot a value. The title of this value will be something you could say, so we'll say prevalent case count, diabetes prevalent case count. Okay, that's fine. Okay, and what will the value be here? Watch this. This is a key learning point. The rest of the stuff is just administrative with how logic forces you to do certain things and its unfortunate defaults. But the value here, this is going to be the kicker, and this is going to recur. It's hard for me to imagine you building a serious model in any logic without using this feature. Remember, we just defined a statistic. Where did that statistic live? In what? In the population. Great. So we're going to ask the population about that statistic here. We're going to ask it, how many diabetics are there? Are you ready for that? Watch this. We saw it visually. Remember, it was counting up? Here we're going to ask it to tell us that information. Population, you have to ask, hey, population, give me this information. Count, and I do control space, and you'll notice that it will say count diabetic. Who defined count diabetic? Was that built into any logic? Who defined that? You did. You did. Darn right. Yes, you defined it, and it made this available to use at your pleasure. Okay? Are we okay with that? Is that a question or no? Okay. Okay. So now the rest of the stuff I have to apologize for because it's administrivia, but let's deal with it, okay? Because in just about every time plot I have to deal with these other things too. It is just boilerplate routine stuff. And I think Dylan suffers the same fate. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, scroll down. There should be a thing that says data update and so on, and you'll notice it says display up to 100 samples. This causes no shortage of grief if you don't up it. So I'll say, sure, display 10,000 samples. And the time window to use, I'll say display up to 1,000 model time units, okay? And those are the two things: display up to a number of samples, and then the time window to use. How long is the time window on the graph? Okay. If you're not careful with those, you'll see data disappearing from the graphs. It's just a pain, and the numbers are so small by default that they often cause more grief than deliver any sort of value. Okay, so let's run this thing. Where's that graph? Does anyone remember? Where do I have to go to see it? Remember where I placed it? Where is it? In Maine. So I'm looking at Maine here. Where is it though? I put it up at the top. Here it is. And there, ladies and gentlemen, is shown our graph, which is disconcerting to say the least. Okay? Okay? Do you see what's going on? Okay. Do you see something like this on your graph? Okay. Okay. Nullian is Dylan. Oh, he's okay. Okay. Who needs help? Who needs help? Help? Okay. Yeah. Oh, okay, great. Okay, let's go to the buzz. Okay, so I have a couple hypotheses. First of all, I think this is too small. There we go. This looks good. This looks good. Can you run it again? I think it may just be too small. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, you have to make your graph a certain size, so you should make it a little bit bigger, because otherwise it won't properly update it. Okay, so let's go see. Is it? Okay, it doesn't look like. Okay, so I have two hypotheses. One is there's something wrong with the graph. One is there's something wrong with the computation of this. So let's go see. 73, 74. Okay, it looks to me like it's something to do with the graph. Okay, let's go back. I'll tell you that. Yeah, that looks fine. I don't see anything wrong with that. Okay, let's go look at the scale. I don't think we should the vertical scale, auto fix. So, okay, so what's going on? There's time unit. Oh, fixing up the top. This is one. I think the filter's there. You thought I was not there, but I have time to do it. Are you trying now? Okay, who needs help? Who needs help? Okay. Yeah.
First of all, I mean, this is going into 101, so I was challenging
Right. Oh, okay. So yeah, you changed it to okay. Right. And I think what it's possible. Okay. And is it showing anything right now? Oh, right down there. Okay, that's because there's only 100 people in the population. So, but still, I mean. Okay, so is it? Oh, I don't know if it's running on. Can we run it? So which one is this? Is it this guy here? This one. Okay. Okay, that's fine, but I'll just run. I think it. Oh, okay. It's somehow an unhappy some diabetes. Okay, it doesn't know about that. Okay, let's just go see what's diabetic. Oh, that's actually okay. I think the problem that it's dealing with is actually a simpler one, to which this guy here, you have down this name diabetic, and this has diabetes, so you need diabetic here on C, and then I think it will be an epic. You that build button there. Yeah, there you go. Okay, it's still unhappy, okay, so I can't see what's over there, that's I think the problem. Yeah, probably two, yeah, get rid of that. Okay, now we can try to build a button. Well, the tables are bad. Okay, there you go. Happy camper, okay, so run there. Okay, who needs additional help? Do you want to scroll down and just see what the graph is doing? Sorry, the right click right now. Right click on that. Yeah, there you go. And it's going, it's rising up there. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, anyone else need help? Okay, so what we did here was we ran this model with a population. A statistic was computed about the population, and that statistic was plotted. How was that done? Let me count the basic mechanisms. Number one, in the population, we defined a statistic called count diabetic. Number two, within Maine, we defined a plot. We defined a data item which called that statistic to determine what to plot. And then we did some administrivia having to do with the number of items that should be plotted on the one hand, and we also told it to plot a certain time window. And that afforded us this kind of description of what was going on over time. Showed the number of people becoming diabetic as time went on. So this is a simple plot, and it's from a statistic about the population. We'll be using those statistics throughout this boot camp to compute additional quantities. A notable feature of that statistic was that it was declarative. You simply said, okay, I want to take in this case, count. You could have also done an average or a sum of what? Well, I'm going to count the number that match this condition. And it would count up the number in that population that matched that condition. Does that make sense to people? Is that okay? Okay. So if there's no specific issues about that, fortified by that knowledge, I'd like to continue to apply our work with statistics. May we do that? Excuse me, with statistics and state charts. May we do that? Very good. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, let us now turn our attention once again to person. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the plot will begin. So, I know some of you are probably feeling this is thick enough. Okay. Unfortunately, I have forgotten my lozenges and the water is out. So if there's an opportunity to secure more water, I'd be most grateful. Because my throat is falling prey to the depredations of long utterances. Okay, so what we're going to do here is something that is going to stretch us further. Hopefully many of you do not feel as if you're upon the rack. So I would like to add into the state chart, to this person, another state chart. And this state chart will make a distinction between individuals in terms of their weight. Okay? Okay. So I would like to once again well, you tell me. Could anyone tell me, if I want to add in distinction between people being normal weight, overweight, and obese, how would I do that? Okay, good. A state chart. Okay, so I'm hearing some good ideas here. What would I do if would I add it on to the existing state chart or make a separate state chart? Separate state chart. Now this is a very important distinction. And I would distinguish this particularly from stratifying an aggregate model, where we simultaneously break it down, say, in one dimension by age category, another dimension by sex, another dimension yet by income level. and we have to deal with all possible combinations of them. Here, there are combinations we can deal with if we wish to do so, and we will do so later in a selective surgical fashion. But for now, you can neatly partition the processes to which a person is subject into different state charts. So you have a TB state chart for their tuberculosis-related risks. You have a diabetes state chart for the diabetes-related risks, and a smoking state chart with respect to the smoking-related risks. Now, those are not independent. They are not solitudes. Indeed, we know the risk of diabetes is raised, in fact, by smoking. We know that diabetes interacts with TB in adverse ways, with the ravages of diabetes on the immune system strength, enhancing risk for TB. But we're not claiming they're independent. It's just you can parcel them out. You can have a separation of concern by having them in different state charts. And we will now see how they can interact as well. Are you interested in that? Okay. Let us now turn our attention to that task. Okay.
That's great.
Yes.
Before you do, can I just ask a question?
Sure.
Forgive me, this is talking about example. Previously, you had income
Yeah.
as a characteristic of the individual.
Yes.
Over time,
Yeah.
their income will change,
Yeah.
particularly if their health state changes.
Indeed.
Does that mean one might also consider modeling income state as a state?
Yes. It's a very good question. So, okay, so there's questions I'd like to make responses at 2 or 3 different levels to that, okay? Probably 3 different levels. And this question is just wonderful, so thank you, Ellen, for bringing it up. So the first thing is previously I'd modeled income as a parameter, in fact. And in response to a question from over there, I said, typically we use parameters to indicate quantities, characteristics of a person. Thank you so much. Properties of a person. Oh, so sorry. So nice. Thank you so much. Properties of a person, which are mostly static, which do not change. And you'll notice that I also slipped in there, and I suspect Alan picked it up. I have age as a parameter there as well. And normally we think of age as something that's changing. It's one of the most fundamental changing components of our life, one of the most fundamental components of states. So whether those things are represented in a parameter as a static quantity on the one hand, or as an aspect of state, something that changes over time, say with a variable with a state chart, or as we'll see with a stock and flow, with a stock. This is actually not an issue at a metaphysical level, at a level of true reality, are they changing or not? Income changes, age changes. The real question is, for our modeling lens, for a particular modeling problem, is that change likely to be of such significance that it's very important to represent, that it's important to represent? And let me give you if you're doing a model of the life course, age, I can't imagine how age could not be in there. If you're doing a model which captures intergenerational transfer effects involving income and the effect of education on a person's income trajectories, and I'm working on a model like that with Michael Wolfson, for example, in Canada. We have a very nice model, which I'd be glad to show, the theoretical inequality, health inequalities model, which links those things to health. There, income is changing over time in a fundamental way. But if you're dealing with a situation like you're modeling, an outbreak of flu in the population for 1 year, or you're modeling, some response to a cholera outbreak, over the course just after an earthquake in Haiti. You don't need to represent changing age. You may be very interested in age as a characteristic in terms of vulnerability, in terms of services that need to be delivered, but it's change. While it is occurring, it's not germane to the time scale that's being talked about. So income sometimes will be viewed as a fixed characteristic, and sometimes sort of ask a question about what would the model, what would be the result if we assume this certain thing about the impact of income on these things. We might treat it as static for that model. But in another model, its dynamics might be of central interest. And so that would be one level. It's not an issue of is it changing, but is its change important as a mediating factor for the dynamics we're seeking to capture. A second issue has to do with would we represent it as a like in a state chart or an aspect of state. And I would say yes. Whether we represent it with a state chart is a little bit of a second order but important issue for an implementation standpoint. Would it be state charts are for capturing discrete divisions. So you might have, for example, states representing income quintiles, right? Or income deciles, for that matter. And you'd have a transition between each state accordingly. But for something like that, which is itself often characterized at a continuous level, you might think about representing using a variable. As we represent color, but it could have been we have a variable representing the current income. That variable is changing over time, or as we'll see later, a stock and flow. And that brings me to my third point, which is often when we represent continuous quantities, you want to think about bringing in system dynamics components, particularly for dynamics of continuous quantity. Because system dynamics has a wonderfully elegant way of specifying dynamics of continuous quantities in terms of regulatory loops, regulatory feedbacks, that's very transparent, elegant, and concise, and often it's theory-based. So there's all sorts of wonderful physiologic theory about metabolic dynamics and evolution, which we can lever for weight dynamics, or for immune system dynamics. We can characterize a person's level of immune memory based on established, published theory based on laboratory experiments grounded by them. And so what I would say is when we get into the realm of continuous quantities, you don't want to rule out, let's put it this way, you want to think about, should we use a hybrid modeling lens with a system dynamics component? And I will tell you that, in my 25 years I've been doing agent-based modeling and 22 or whatever system dynamics modeling, it's very interesting because you bring ideas from one tradition to the other. And one area where I think system dynamics really has nailed certain things in a way that agent-based modeling isn't yet there to it's the issue of regulatory processes and dynamics. System dynamics puts a very strong emphasis on sort of regulatory processes, how the things that keep our bodies in balance, that keep our systems in balance, that keep organizations in balance. There's a set of processes that operate that mean we're not merely at the whim of being blown around by prevailing economic situation. If we get out of a job, we seek social support networks, we seek to build skills or what have you, and at the same time it may adversely affect our sense of self-confidence and self-worth. And these things can be just wonderfully described using system dynamic stocks and flows in a way that I think agent-based modeling, it isn't quite there yet in terms of those regulatory components and the issue of sort of representing individual balance. That's kind of my own feeling about it. And a lot of the work we're doing these days is with, in fact, hybrid models where you have that really theory-grounded system dynamics within an agent. I don't know if that's too much of an answer, but I think you're asking a very good question. And I think when it comes to income dynamics, this is one of these areas that theory like that can be useful. Any other questions? Wonderful stuff. Any other questions? Okay. So ladies and gentlemen, how many people would like a health break now before beginning? And how many people would be okay going for, say, 45 minutes and then a health break? You okay with that? Okay? Break? Okay, break, okay. Okay. Thank you. And I will enjoy my water.